Rev up your engines! Now, if you want to get value for your money and you do an awful lot of driving, something like this 2016 Accord could be just what you're asking for. Now, you're not going to get a deal like this guy because he got it for nothing. And he's probably put 150,000 miles on it since then because he works for an alcohol distributing firm, so he drives all over the place. You probably couldn't pick a vehicle that's much better if you want a comfy ride, a zippy car, and something that doesn't need much maintenance. Now we'll start under the hood. It is a 2.4 liter 4-cylinder engine. I know a lot of people are going to say Earth Dreams, oh, they turned it to a nightmare. They have oil consumption problems. They have oil dilution. Not this one, because it's a 2.4 liter non-turbo. Now, if you're going to get one of those itty-bitty 1.5 liter turbo GDI, yes, they can have oil dilution problems. Too much pressure from the GDI and the turbo. It doesn't have a turbocharger on it. This one now has 163,000 miles on. It uses a tiny amount of oil. He changes the oil. He's got to be a quart low after he changes the oil. So, I mean, you can't complain. That tiny bit of oil burning. These old engines can run forever. And the 2.4 has got decent enough power. It doesn't need a turbo. He gets like 29 miles a gallon in town and 32 on the highway. Not too shabby for a vehicle that's as zippy as this thing is. Now, this does have a CVT transmission. Everybody knows I'm not a big fan, but this one's never been touched. It's still working perfectly fine, and that's how it gets the better gas mileage. So it shows that Honda engineers do know what they're doing. Now, back in the day when they were making these, if you got a V6 engine, you could have still gotten a regular automatic transmissions, but they cut them out in 4-bangers. So these are all either CVTs or a manual, and since 96% of Americans drive some type of automatic transmissions and not manuals, this is their big seller. And these things were made in Ohio. They've been making them there for decades. They've made millions of Accords in Ohio, and they all seem to roll down the road quite fine. The AC still works. You can see, even though it's got 160-something thousand miles, that's the original alternator. Look, it's still on there. Now the battery's been replaced a few times, and I've got a beef with Honda. See how tiny that battery is? They put these stinking tiny batteries in Hondas, right? Why? Because it's cheaper to make them that way, right? They're not cheap to buy because they're an oddball size. You're still probably going to pay a couple $100 for these things nowadays. Put a bigger battery like they did originally, but they just want to kind of cheese you out. That's just kind of a pet peeve I have. My Toyota battery, 50% bigger than this, and it has an engine that's 50% smaller than this. So they could have put a bigger battery in it, but yeah, minor thing. He's had to replace a few batteries. That's typical. Now you can see the alloy wheels are still in pretty good shape. The paint's still in pretty good shape, other than the bird poop on it. And all in all, it's still a decent looking car. Well, like I said, he got it for nothing. He's put about 150,000 miles. He wants to see, can he keep driving it for quite some time? So we're gonna get the old computer out and analyze everything. Turn the key on. So the idiot lights are on, and turn on the little computer. Cool graphics, I'll give him that. While it's warming up, we'll look around. Other than it being dusty because he's dirty. It's not cracked or anything. We'll go for auto search. Woo, look at the cool graphics. Everything is formed now. USA. Hey, they should make it play American music then if they really want to do something. All right, it notes the car, 2016. Scan it. This is my type of car. No sunroof. I hate those stupid things. They just leak. Look at the space in the back seat. These are luxurious little cars. And I doubt if you're going to get one for nothing like he did from his father, who was the original owner. But, hey, he's put 150,000 miles on the thing, and it's still going strong. Now, while we're waiting, this is the first Japanese car their family bought. They were a Ford family. And guess what? After they bought this one, gave it to their son, the only thing they buy is Japanese cars. Are you listening, Mr. Farley? What I like about these older ones? This is one of the last ones to have a real emergency brake and not that electronic crap. Go, finally done 100%. Now, it's got some codes, and a lot of them will probably be baloney. There's only a few of them. As you can see, evap leak. Aha! They all get evap leaks as they age. He can get another gas cap. Maybe that'll fix it. And then different diameter tire detection. Ooh! Yes, he was wondering about his tires. He said they sound kind of loud. Well, so they're a little bit bigger. Is it going to hurt anything? No. So basically, there's nothing really wrong with this at all, especially since it lives in Tennessee. It doesn't matter what kind of evap leaks you have. There's no emissions testing. So who cares? I mean, if you were worried, it said a large leak, and on these usually means the gas cap's old. You can buy another gas cap that'll probably fix it, but this is Tennessee where no one cares as long as they run okay, and this thing runs perfectly fine. Heck, if it's getting 32 miles a gallon on the highway, it's running perfectly fine. So let's start her up, start her up, and we will look at live data. Here we go. We'll select everything. Black's good, red is bad. Air fuel imbalance, 0. Corrections, -0. That means the air fuel ratio is perfect. I'm not talking about 1% off. I'm talking about perfect. As you can see through the little hole here, it's got 163,625 miles. You gotta hand it to those Honda engineers to build something that fine, that it's still running perfectly after all these years and all those miles. They know how to make these things. They just do. It's a shame that they still don't make these 2.4 liter non-turbos. Hey, perfectly fine. Who's going to complain about 32 miles a gallon on the highway? Who's going to complain, right? But no, they got to make everything smaller, put turbos on it. I can guarantee you, you're not going to find a single 1.5 liter, 4-cylinder turbocharged GDI Honda that's got 162,000 miles on it, that doesn't burn oil or have oil dilution problems from gasoline getting the oil because of all that pressure in a tiny engine. A much bigger engine can handle it, lasts so much longer, and that tiny bit of gas mileage, when you find out that, well, the engine's worn out now, it's going to cost you 10 grand or you buy another car, versus, oh, you saved a few pennies at the pump. Here we go, let's take a look at some other stuff. There's a little bit off. The Lambda's 1.01. It is 1/100th. Oh, it's perfect again. Oh, it's 1/100th of a percent off again. Oh, let's look at some more stuff. Battery's going fine. 14.1 to 14.5 volts. Even shows you the temperature of the catalytic converter. That's working fine. All the cam system, variable valve timing. As you can see, cylinder misfires, all 0. To be expected. Millisecond firing of the fuel injectors. Fine, so let's take it for a spin. We go down the road. I can tell him he needs one thing. He needs wheel bearings. I can hear them roaring. Hear that noise? Whoa, whoa, whoa. The wheel bearings are worn. Now, you don't necessarily have to do it right away, but eventually the noise will get even louder. Now, the idle's perfectly fine. And I notice he's got it in eco mode. We'll turn that off. We want to go faster. That's how he gets a good gas mileage, though. He drives in eco mode. Here we go. There's nobody behind us. Let's see what's left of this whole thing. Okay, that was the variable valve timing kicking in. Look at that. Still goes perfectly fine, and I do have to say, for a CVT transmission, that's pretty good acceleration. You can hear the wheel bearings more, because we're spinning them faster. I mean, other than the wheel bearings that it needs, now, hey, we're by an airport, sounds like we're in an airplane getting ready to take off. It still handles good. The bearings aren't that bad, because there's no play in the front end. They're just starting to wear. Car idling like a dream. We'll shut her off. So there you have it. He got it for nothing and put 150,000 miles on it. It still runs like a clock. Yeah, the backup camera's broken. Big deal. It's sad that Honda doesn't make them as well as they used to, because this thing, hey, it just runs and runs. Now, you can't blame the wheel bearings being worn, because it was hitting the front, and he also does deliveries all the time, and he says he's hitting numerous curbs. And every time you hit a curb, you're straining the wheel bearings. Sometimes if you hit a big curb, it might seem okay. And then 2,000-3,000 miles later, you start to hear roar. And if you remember, it was the right front wheel that you hit, or the left front wheel, that would be the first wheel bearing that you'd have to change out. So they don't make them like they used to. They're still making them in Ohio like this one. They do just about as good a job as they do building them in Japan. But the new ones, they're not as solid as these old ones. And here's some bonus questions and answers. Well, I warned you about GM quality control. Well, here's a guy bought a brand new Cadillac XT4. It broke down 3.5 miles from the dealership after they had just fixed it. And the same tow truck driver towed it back, who was the guy that towed it to the dealership in the first place. He's laughing. Wait a second, I saw this thing before. And the interesting thing was, he had towed that same car a month before to the dealership. It took them a month to fix it. They said they had to wait on parts. Well, their fix lasted 3.5 miles and it died and wouldn't start again. This shows you, not only is the quality of the cars bad, the qualities of the guys fixing them is absolute garbage. They're not paying these people diddly squat. Back in the day, my grandfather was a mechanic at a dealership in Niagara Falls. He got 50% of the labor. It was only 50 cents an hour, he got a quarter. You go to a Cadillac dealer today, it'll be $200-something an hour. And the mechanics are lucky if they're making maybe $20 an hour because they get paid by what's called labor rate hours. So when they're working, they get paid, but when they're not, they don't get paid anything. So let's say they only bill 30 hours a week. They might be there for 40-something hours, but they only get paid for 30 if they're not billing it, working on a car while they're sitting there. So a lot of times their pay is relatively low. And so the quality of the people is going down, 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 which is sad because these cars are getting more and more complicated, but the guys who work on them are getting dumber and dumber. You're not going to get quality people if you don't pay them the right amount of money. It's a dirty job, dangerous job. You can get crushed, you can get electrocuted with modern electric cars, and they're just not paying people enough. And so this is what happens. Bad enough that the guy had it towed in a month ago. He had to wait a month, and then 3.5 miles later, the car broke down again. The guy says, I'm never buying another Cadillac. Well, don't be like him. Don't buy one in the first place. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.